So where did we stop last time? I think we're still trying to understand the Python as a programming language, right?
Yes. Yes.
I could remember we have done variable, right? Learned how to create variable. I know I gave us an assignment. What was the assignment? Research. Hmm?
On the three data types in Python.
Okay, research on data types and implement them. So how many of us have done that? Who have done that? So if you have not done that, it means you take it back home as another assignment. Because the reason why I asked you to research on that, I wanted just to paraphrase if you have done some studies at home on it, so it doesn't take us time, but we can get to the analysis part today. So all the same, if you have not done anything regarding to that, so you take it back home as an assignment, so that I can just focus on what I actually want to cover today. Then if by next Saturday, you are able to do it, then we could just take time to do correction and to run through it again before we leave that topic. Now, the way it's done is that this aspect that we are taking you guys, which is the general application of Python, which is the learning the Python fundamentals, is required because you need to have a bit knowledge of Python as a language you want to use for analyzing data. I don't know if you are with me. You know, Excel, why we did not do something like this in Excel? What is required for you to apply Excel in data analysis is the basic knowledge. That was the reason why when you came then, I was asking who has done the fundamental aspect of Excel. So when we discovered that some of you have not done, we have to what? Go back. Now, for Python, you just have to understand the simple syntax of the language, which is variable. So those ones I asked us to research on is just to deepen our knowledge a little bit. But not that with the knowledge of variable, we cannot actually continue with the analysis. So it's actually optional thing. If you don't learn those things, you can actually use Python for analysis. But I just wanted us to be grounded a little before switching to the analysis aspect. So you are taking that back home as your assignment. We'll look at it if you are able to attempt it next week. So on that note, we'll just go straight to how to set up Jupyter Notebook for data analysis. How to set up the Jupyter Notebook for data analysis. How to set up the Jupyter Notebook for data analysis. Now, in our previous class, I have explained to us that the Jupyter Notebook is a platform, it's a framework, right? Which helps us to put all our data and all its components in one place for us to be able to analyze them. So what we are starting with now is that now that we are set for an analysis, we need to go back and learn how do we set it up. Because the setup we did the other time was just to speak pure Python, how to learn Python variable. But now that we want to start our data analysis, how are we expected to set up the notebook? So we'll write down the step even as I go through them. Now you should be doing the same thing. I will try to be a bit slow so that whatever I'm doing, you are doing the same, even as you are writing. So your first step is to launch the Anaconda. if you are writing your step, your first step is to launch the Anaconda. The reason why you have to open the Anaconda is for you to access the notebook, which is the Jupyter notebook. Hope you are following. So you have to open it first.
Yes, sir.
Because you did not install Jupyter Notebook as a standalone. I told us that you can actually go straight to Google and say, download what? Jupyter Notebook, without getting it through Anaconda. So because we got it through Anaconda, that is the reason why I am saying that you need to load the Anaconda before we can what? Access it. So your second step is to what? To launch it. So once you launch it, it will open on a browser because it said that it is a web-based interactive computing notebook environment. So it works as if it was with a browser that is expected to only work when you are on the internet. But because of the local server, remember I told you that the Jupyter, the Anaconda itself is a server. When we started, I said it's a server that is providing services for what? The libraries and the notebooks. That is why as we install it, they are all within it. In other words, is the one overseeing them, is the one empowering them. So once you open it, once you launch it, it's expected to open in a browser, just like the way your own has opened now. That is Mr. Benjamin. So young man, I hope you are also opening your own. Okay. So I'm waiting for mine to open. Mr. Emmanuel, hope you are also with us there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm here.
All right. So if you notice it's taking time, though it's going to open twice, so you can still trigger it. But at the end of the day, to open two, then you can now close one. So while we are waiting for it to open, let's keep writing a step. Okay, I think I'm almost there, so we can follow it properly. This aspect is very important. This is, we have entered analysis now, so we need to make sure that you understand whatever we are learning at this moment. So I'm still waiting for it to open the directory. Your Windows icons are too big, young man. Your Windows icon are too big. I don't know what you did. So you can right click and reduce the size. All right, so please, let's focus. Even if your own has not loaded, just keep writing down your step. Now, this is where we are now. If we are asked, how do we describe this particular interface? How do we describe it? This is the Jupyter Notebook directory. The directory in system term means what? An entry or an entrance. In other words, this entrance is where you can access storages. So depending on where you store the data and the file you are analyzing your data with, just stay on it. I'm still explaining. So once you have access to this place, the next thing you will do is to minimize it and go and create a folder on desktop. I hope you are also taking down your step. Why are we creating this folder? This folder is going to be your project folder. So I can just name it as Saturday. I can just name it as Saturday underscore class. So for all the work we'll be doing will be saved inside what? This folder. It's like I have that folder already created. So let me say weekend class. Now, please, there's a reason why I'm going through this process. If, for example, tomorrow you you want to continue with another laptop, all you need to do is to make sure that you install Anaconda in that new laptop, then use your flash drive, copy this folder. So you don't have to start the whole analysis. Once you drop this folder on that laptop, new laptop desktop, you should be able to call all the work you have been doing. So that is the reason why before you start your analysis, always ensure that all your files are wrapped in what? A known folder. Exactly. Now, once you have created that folder, all the data you want to analyze with the Python should be inside this folder. So the next thing I'm going to do, which should be your step, add all the data sets in that folder. Remember, you must have written, create a project folder. So your next step is add all the data sets to analyze in that folder. Now I have my data set in a folder called data. So I will just look for that folder and then transfer the particular data set I want to work on to that folder so that I can access them directly from Python. Looking for data that help me to data. Where is it? I'm looking for a folder that is named data, just data, raw data. I said the raw data too, in case you can help me to see it. Raw data, not raw data too. Okay, let me take it line by, have you seen it? Okay, good. So I will just open it. I have a particular data I'm working with, which is this healthcare data. And I'm going to be working with two different data sets. It is advisable you don't work with one data. I've said it before, whether you are using advanced Excel or Python, because each data has a way of giving you different information when you analyze. So I'm adding just two data. So if you don't have this healthcare data, you can actually find it in Cargo. But let me also add one of the data sets we all have, which is we'll have the Yargon data, right? We'll have it together. So let me just drop these two data sets inside my project folder. So I'll drop them here. So this is, now once we have done that, these two data sets that I drop here, one is Excel, one is pure Excel, one is CSV. So I'm going to show us how you can read CSV data into Python and also how you can read Excel into Python. You can actually read both of them. Now, once you have done this, you go back to your notebook. I hope you're also noting down the step. Now you come back to this directory. Now, as soon as you return to this directory, the first thing you should do is to identify the storage where you created that your folder. Identify the storage where you created that folder. Are we there? Now look up. Now, when I said identify the folder where you created the root folder, remember that we created the root folder on what? Desktop, right? And if you check where you have this folder, if you are asked, so you see the reason why I created the folder. If you are asked which directory is this, you don't even know whether it's saved in document, whether this folder is saved in what? Any of this folder. So now, once you double click here, you can see that that place has updated, which means that what? From the root directory, you are now in what? In desktop. So once you get to desktop, you will see the name of that folder you created, which is what? Weekend what? Weekend. So I'm looking for it. It should be somewhere here. It shouldn't go far. Weekend data analysis. So let's see if it should be here. Now look at it here. So now you will now also double click on it. Then the directory is changing, which means that what? This folder, I hope you are looking at what I'm doing. This folder is inside what? Desktop, right? Now, the moment I am inside that folder, you can see that what?
the two data sets that we added, they are available. So let me wait for us to get to that place quickly. Let everybody create your folder, add your data inside it, then make sure you get to where I am now before I continue. All right, so the next thing was to do now that we are able to access our directory, is to create, hope you are still writing your step now. So your next step is to create your notebook. And how do you create your notebook? This is just like another, what we have done. Okay, let's add it together as part of the steps. You create your notebook by clicking on new. Look at it here. Once you click on new, you select Python 3. I hope you are following, please. Let's concentrate. Nobody should slow me down, please. Click on new and select Python 3. Click on new and select Python 3. Click on it. Now it will automatically add, just click on it, provided it's having that Python icon. Just hold on, good, the same thing, depends on your system configuration. Maybe the version you, good. So you are here now, right? Now, this is your development environment. Remember last time when we were even learning Python, this was the environment we were using. But I don't want to assume that we already know the process. That's why I have to go back so that we can get it right. Now that we are going into data what? Analysis. Is that clear? So we have successfully learned how to do what now? How to set up what? How to set up Jupyter what? Notebook for what? Analysis. But we are still on it, but yeah, we have finished part A. So part B of it, so everything we have done now is still under this, but it's under what? Part A. So part B now, we will now be looking at how to rename and how to import library. Look at this. So this is going to be our part what? B. So you write how to import library or libraries importation. How to import libraries. How to import library. Are we together? How to import what? Library. Now, if you remember, I have already mentioned, we talked about this library before now, but just for the benefit of doubt, let me still explain it to us. What do we mean by library? What is library? Right, which we want to import. I don't want to assume that we know it. So right, Python library, also known as modules or packages. Python libraries, also known as modules or packages, are a collection of pre-written code. A collection of pre-written code that provide additional functionality. That provide additional functionality. That provide what? Additional functionality. That provide additional functionality. Are we together? So the Python programming language. So the Python programming language. So the Python programming language. The Python programming language. Now, what we are simply talking about here is that I told us before that this Jupyter notebook is just a platform. Hope we are together. It's just what? A platform. It does not have functions that we need to analyze data. Even the function that we need to read our data here, because we must bring our data, that data set you copied inside that project folder. You are going to read it here, because this is where you are going to be what? Analyzing it. Now, but we need a function. Sir, are you with us? But you need a function to read it here. To read it here, you need a library that contains that function. And that is why our next topic is what? To import what? Library. Now, you know that the library are a collection of what? Function. So we need some function. How do we access them? Is the reason why I want to import the library. But before we go into the library importation, let's quickly rename our sheets or our notebook. How do we? It's part of what I've taught you before, right? So let's quickly click on the untitled and give it what? First analysis class. That is what you should give it. First analysis class. First underscore. I told you that anytime you are writing two words, always separate them with what? Underscore. First analysis. Analysis class. So you click on rename. So with that, you have successfully renamed your notebook, because we are going to be creating other notebook. The reason why you have to name your notebook is this particular notebook, maybe you create for what? Mr. Peter data that you want to analyze. When you want to analyze another customer data, you create another what? Notebook. So the notebook must be unique. So how do we import the library? Now I want you to watch me first, and then I will pause. You transfer everything I'm going to write in this cell to your note before you watch. You implement it before I continue. But just focus now. Don't do anything. Now, I have told us about comment, right? Good. So you can see now, whatever you are doing per time, use comment to what? To explain it. What I want to do now is what? We want to import what? Library, right? So I will say what? Python library. Importation. That is what we want to do now. Now, what are the popular library that we need? What are the popular library that has the functions we want to what? Access as the reason why we are importing them. So right, Python basic library or Python analysis library. Right. So I don't want to assume. Python analysis what? Library. Number one is pandas. Number two is NumPy. Number one is what? Pandas. So example, the library we want to import, example, we have pandas. And what? NumPy. These are the two libraries that we need now at the moment. Now, what is pandas? Brief explanation so that we know why we are actually importing it. What is expected to do for us? Right, pandas and NumPy coming. So pandas is a powerful and popular open source library in Python. Pandas, hope you are right. Pandas is a powerful and popular open source library in Python for data manipulation. Underline that manipulation. For data manipulation and analysis. So the major reason why we want to import it, because we want to analyze data and want to, at some point, manipulate our data. So that's why we need the pandas. So let's add more information about it. Right. It provides data structure. So this is the core reason. It provides data structure. It provides what? Data structure and functions to efficiently handle structured data. To efficiently handle structured data. To efficiently handle what? Structured data. So let's quickly look at NumPy before I go to the aspect of bringing them. Structured data. That is organized what? Data, like that data set we are working with. They can be referred to as what? Structured what? Data, because they are arranged in columns and what? Rows. Now, let's have a bit knowledge of NumPy as the two libraries that we need now, which I am going to import in a moment. I just want us to understand their major function so that you know that if you don't import them, you know what you are denied from. Let's look at NumPy. The full meaning of that is what? Numerical Python. Numerical Python. That is the meaning of that NumPy. Numerical Python is a library for working with arrays and mathematical operations in Python. NumPy, which means numerical Python, is a library for working with array and mathematical operations in Python. Are you with me? So we need these two libraries. Now, I want you to now watch me on the screen as I import these two libraries, which we have just studied. So I'm going to write statement like this. Please stay on the screen. Import, let's avoid distraction. I know why I'm saying this. Import pandas. Import pandas as PD. So what we are saying is that as we continue with this notebook, anywhere or anytime I want to call pandas, I will simply call what? PD. I'm just like shortening it. I don't want to be writing it in full. I said anywhere next I need pandas, I will type what? PD. It can also be any name, provided it's not another keyword. Import panda as Prosper. It will allow it. So which means that what? Anytime I need panda, if I type Prosper, it's representing what? Panda. That is the meaning of that expression. So with that, then I will also import the other one. Import NumPy as NP. So the same thing I just explained now. Anywhere I want to use NumPy, I will call what? NP. Are you with me? Now, for certain reason, we want to write this. For certain reason, I can say from, I will explain this, from the same pandas, import series. That series, the S should be in capital letter. Import series, then comma, then data frame. I'm going to explain this. The D should be capital letter, the F should also be in capital letter. Now, what we are saying is this. Remember that here you have called the entire bucket, right? That have all the functions, including the one you are referencing here. Just like you are saying that from the same buckets that you have already imported, go there and what? Pick a particular function. So here you are giving a function, you are giving a focus. You want to ensure that what? This particular one is active. Not that if you don't write it, it's not in pandas, which you have already what? Imported earlier on. But you are just trying to like make it easier for assessment. Now, once you are done like this, pay attention. Once you are done writing these lines of code, this is not enough for you to say that you have successfully imported the what? The library, because you have to execute it. In as much this place is not reading a value, it means that what? You have not initialized this particular word code. And to do that, remember what you were told. You click on what? Run. And then once here has a value and without error, it means that what? You have successfully imported the library, which also means that what? At the moment, in this notebook that I'm working with, that you name first analysis class. These libraries are present. So when you call functions that exist in them, there will be what? Resp. Can you see that what? It has read what? 1. In case you are wondering, or maybe you are thinking that maybe it's a child play that nothing happened. Let me just delete. Let me make one mistake here. Let me just put what? Small letter F and run it again. You will see error. You see error. So for it to display a value here without having additional error, that is to tell that what? The operation was what? Successful. That is how you know whether you did the right thing. Once you execute a code and you did not see any error, then you know that what? You have done the right thing. So you are going to update your notebook to this place now. Copy the whole. So let's go to the next slide. So we are done with. Please, I want to be sure that we are clear with what we did. Is it clear? Okay. Now, let's go to the next, back to our note, write the topic down. Loading of data frame into Jupyter Notebook. Now that we have the libraries that will offer us the function we need to load the data, we can now proceed to data loading section. Loading of data frame into. So what I'm calling data frame here is the same as what we call data sets. Those data, you know, we copied how many data sets? 2 of them, right? So we want to load 2 of them. One is Excel, the other one is what? CSV. So we're going to start with what? Loading CSV data set. Write it under this main topic. Loading CSV. In your notes, not your computer yet. When it's time for computer, I will let you know. Loading CSV. Loading CSV. And what is the full meaning of the CSV? Common separated value. Common separated value. So it's a data format that is mostly used to load data across most of our data analysis platform, like Python. So it's your choice. If data set is given to you and it is saved or it was saved as CSV, the function you need to load it in your notebook is different from if it was given to you as pure Excel format. And that is why I want to walk us through the various what? Methods. So now what I want to do here, I will use comment. I told you that whatever you are doing per session, use comment to educate us. Let's know what you are doing. Now the topic now is what? Loading what? Loading CSV what? Data frame or data sets. So instead I use these 2 words. I'm referring to the same thing. Now, the first thing you are going to do, you are to create a variable. You see the reason why we learned variable the other time? Because I told us that variables are used for storing what? Value in the program memory. Now, the data set that you have here, this is what I want to load now. This particular healthcare, which is saved in what? CSV. For the fact that is here, if I want to be communicating with that data, I must read it here in Python and save it in Python memory. So I am going to save it in Python memory as data frame, not variable, because variable stores single value. But the assignment I gave to us, if you have done it, you will have known why I will say this is not variable. Instead, it's a data frame or dictionary. Now, I will say the name of my data frame should not be a keyword in the program. For example, you cannot use print as your what? Data frame name. It should be a name that does not exist. So let's say what? DA what? 1. Are you with me? Is the name of what? The container that will be storing the whole of healthcare data in Python memory. So anytime I want to reach out to that data, then that data is now represented in Python memory as what? DA what? 1. So DA1, I can decide to use the same name that I used there, healthcare, in as much is not a keyword. Okay, are you with me? Focus. Now, equals to in programming is an assignment. It does not mean equality. It means that what? You want to store something inside a container. And what is the container? The DA what? 1. Now, for you to store the data inside that DA1, you need a library called what? PD. You can see it now. Because we have imported what? Pandas as what? PD. So what I'm saying is that there is a function I need to read this healthcare data from here into what? The notebook where I am performing my what? Analysis. But that function is a sub-element in a library. So what you did now is that you reference the container that contains that function, which is what? The panda. Now you now put dots. That dot means concatenation, which means that what is connected, is linked to. So dot read underscore C what? SV, because that is the format you want to read. Now that read underscore CSV is the name of a function you need to read CSV what? File into what? Python what? Notebook. By the time we want to read that Excel, it will now be what? Read underscore what? Excel. Now, being a function, it must carry what? Parentheses what? Brackets. It must carry what? This bracket, which means that what? It needs arguments. So we need to supply the name of the data here. This name now, this particular name of our data in that, this healthcare, we have to what? Supply it here. But because it's a string, we have to quote it. Remember from our last class when we were creating variable. You know, if it is a number, you are not quoting, right? But if it is a string, you are quoting. So I'll bring this. Now, what I will do is that I will just quickly switch back to my home, then right-click on that particular file, then scroll down, select what? This option, which says what? Copy path. That means you have copied what? The URL, the link. Now, you now switch to your notebook. Inside the quotation, you Ctrl-V to paste. Are you following? Now, if I run it like this now, it will throw an error. Anytime you see a bunch of errors like this, please don't be scared with this plenty error. Just go to the last line. That is where you have the key error. That is where Python is telling you directly what is wrong. Forget about all those plenty grammar. Now here, no such words, file or what? Directory. So which informed me that, okay, the issue I'm having here is that Python could not what? Reach out to what? Where the file is. So I will use relative method. You know, the folder weekend class is on desktop, right? Right? I'm going to use a logic now. Pay attention here. And then desktop is on what? On the local disk. That's your system inbuilt storage. Now, I will use relative method because this method is called absolute method, where you are trying to trace the file to the root. And that is where Python is not able to get it. So I was okay, use an element that is related to fetch it. So what I will do is this. I will just remove what? This particular desktop here. I'll just delete this one from here. So I will say 1 dot. That 1 dot means what? Go back step as a go back 1 step. That is what? From healthcare. Look at it now. We're from here now. When you move from here, you enter 1 step. 1 dot means what? Move from here, you enter what? Move from desktop, you enter weekend what? Class. Right? Then move from weekend class, then you get to what? Healthcare. Right? Now, if I run it once now, you can see that there's error. Because what? Right now, with this 1 dot, you only enter what? Weekend class, but you did not enter Mr. Benjamin. You only enter weekend class, you did not enter what? Data. Now, we now add 1 more dot and run again. Accepted. Can you see it now? So, which means that what? The first dot is what? the first dot is to enter what? Weekend class, right? From desktop, right? Then the second dot is what? Then access what? Good. Now we have it here. Remember that this is currently storing the whole of that data, right? So for me to see the data, I will just come down and call what? DA what? 1, and then run it. So you have your data here directly. So you can see. So we have been able to load our data into the notebook. So what I want to do for me now is to copy the whole of this line in your note first, then you will now implement it. Then before I proceed.
Oh.
All right, so how to loading a cell file into notebook. So to load a cell file, all you need to do is to also create a variable. Let's say what? DA what? 2 equals to, let's pay attention first. Let's pay attention first, just like we did. So I'll start by calling a variable, different container, where I'm going to be storing that particular version data. Then we are referencing what? Both of them are getting the functions from the same pandas. So PD dot read underscore Excel. Are you getting it now? So you can see the difference. So if it is a cell file, you use this function. Now, the same thing, the name of, pay attention, the name of the file is already here. You can see the extension SLSS. That's the picture of what? CSV, which means what? A cell file. Now, the same thing, right click and select what? Copy what? Paths. You have a question?
Like when we are writing this command now, we use that XLS as a cell.
No. That is what, you are working with library. What they use is storing a function. The spelling is what you follow. If you bring in your own, then it is not be in the bucket.
Okay.
Now, good. So now I paste again, just like we did the other time. Now, if I run it now and it throws error, what is saying that what? This is not what? Valid, right? That same issue, the same directory issue. So you use that logic of relative method. You cut off what? This desktop. Then you do what? 2 dots. 1, 2. Then you run. So you wait. Wait. No. You have to wait. Always watch what is happening here. So it works, but it's like telling you that what is depreciating. Maybe very soon now, this function. So now I want to confirm. Let's call our what? DA what? DA2. So it's called the data, but not well. So you can see no wonder it outputted the wrong information. So what I am going to do to debug is to go and open the data itself and find out whether it's even okay. Just like that, your own. If I've allowed you to load that data, now you have an issue. Let's even find out whether what we have there is a real data. That is why it's advisable you open it like this. You can actually do it even in Python. You can open it in Python. If I come here now and double click, so you can see no value. You can see the error. So there's even error here. So the data is not a complete one, but let's wait for the copy of Excel to open, the one I'm opening, to see whether what I have there is, can you see it? So this is what I'm supposed to take now. Exactly. Good. So when you have issue like this, it means that what? You are working with a wrong data format. So let me quickly what? Update it. So what I will do now, so that I don't change what I have there, I will just delete this other sheet. I will now resave so that it will update the one I have in my notebook. Now I have just this now. Now I will clear all the formats. we don't need any design in Python. And how do we clear formats? It's part of what you will have known from Excel. Come to what? Clear. Select what? Clear format. Then you now what? Save. You update it by pressing Ctrl S. Now let's go to our notebook and refresh. So refreshing will just be that, let me just go out of here. Let me just go out of here. You understand? Go back and then locate what? Weekend. It should be done. Don't worry, it should be done. Here is it. Weekend class. Now I have it here now. Now let's go back to this sheet now, where let me reinitialize this line. Let me reinitialize here by running it again. You can see that those printing error has gone. Now let me call the DA2 now and see if I will have my right data. Good. All right. So now everybody copy the format to your notes and also implement. So that brings us topic, loading of data frame into what? Jupyter Notebook, whether CSV or what? Excel. So if you are given any of these data formats, then you should know how to load it. Because they can give you CSV file that is more than the Excel capacity. So you may not have that opportunity to go and open it in Excel and switch to what? CSV before you can load it in Python. So if it's given to you in form of CSV, you can load it direct. So now the next topic is what? Data frame examination with Python functions. Let's write in our notes. Data what? Frame examination with Python functions. Data frame examination with Python functions. So let's look at what we are talking about. What is data examination? Now, let me just explain before I give us the right notes. When we started Excel, I told us that as a data analyst, when you are given data, the first thing you do is to what? To examine the data, right? You study what? The data in order to understand it before you will now be able to know the questions you can actually what? Answer from that data. Now, studying the data, there are a lot of things we are going to exploit from the data. So all these functions I'm going to discuss now, they fall under what? Data inspection. You are not the one that collected what? The data. And you cannot start your analysis without you what? Inspecting the what? The data to understand it. So let's write, what is data inspection? Right. Data inspection is the process of reviewing and examining data to understand its contents. Data inspection is the process of reviewing and examining data to understand its contents. To understand its contents. Are you there? Comma, structure. So these are the things we want to check for. Please concentrate so that we can move forward. Data inspection is the process of reviewing and examining data to understand its content. I believe you should be there now. To understand its contents. Examining data to understand its contents. Comma, structure and the quality and the quality. Are you there now? Full stop. It involves checking the data for errors, inconsistencies. It involves checking the data for errors, inconsistencies, and anomalies. Errors, inconsistencies, and anomalies. Anomalies. Yes. Now, what we are saying here is this. For us as data analysts, when we are given data set like this, now that you have been able to call it, the next thing is not for you to start analyzing. It's for you to do what? To inspect it. So, like I said, this is what data what? Inspection. So we need to inspect the data. So I want to start with what? The DA1. So I'm inspecting what? The DA1 first. I want to find out what this data is made up of. Are you with me? Now, what are some of those things we want to check for? Write your note. What do we want to check for in that DA1 data set? One, we want to check for the total numbers of headers in that particular data frame. The total numbers of headers in that particular data frame. Two, we want to check for the total numbers of records in that particular data set. We want to check for the total numbers of what? Records. Then we also want to check for the type of data they are made up of. Make sure you are listing all these I'm saying. We want to check for the type of data. The type of data. Now, let's look at them. I want you to pay attention now. So I'm going to start with the first one, the example of this function. Say what? Data analysis inspection what? Function. Because we are taking the one after the other. Functions using this data set, which is our DA1. That is what we are focusing on right now. So example, let's start with examples. The first one, is .info. Make sure you are writing them in your notes, anyone that I'm mentioning. The first one is what? .info is a function. .info. The first one is what? .info. So what is this function for? Go back to your note and write before I implement it. The .info function in Python is a method provided by pandas. So you know where we are calling it from. The .info function in Python is a method provided by pandas library, which is used to display a concise summary of data frame. Which is used to display a concise summary of a data frame. Are you there now? Concise summary of a data frame. Note, this summary includes information such as index, data type, and column types. So these are some of the variables. These are part of the information we are going to derive from the data by running this function on that data. I said this summarize or this summary include information such as index, D type. The D type represents data type. Includes information such as index data type and column data types. You'll be separated with comma. Non-nullable. Non-nullable. Counts and memory usage. Let me take it again. This summary includes information such as the index, data type and column data types, comma, non-nullable, counts, and memory usage. Non-nullable, that is N-U-L-L, non-label. That is what? Missing value. That is cell without value. Now, look up. So I've explained. Now, what do I want to derive from this DA1? I want to know how many records are there, right? I want to know the data type. I want to know the index. So now the syntax will simply be, remember I have told us before, the term syntax in programming means what? The rule, the format, right? So how are we supposed to use that .info? You call the name of the data set itself, DA1. You now do dots. That dot means what? You are attaching, concatenation, right? Dot what? Info. We are not putting anything inside the what? The bracket of that what? Info. We will simply run. So you can see it has provided all those information. Check what I highlighted, the headers, the columns, right? So from here, you can see that you have how many columns? You have how many columns? Okay, let's start from here. Let's start from top here. Index, we have how many records? This is what shows what? The total number of entry. 5 what? 55,000, right? And 500 entry, ranging from 0 to this, because in programming, the first value is called 0 index, not 1. Remember we did something like that the other time. Good. Now, let's look at data columns. How many headers do we have in this data set now? 15. So instead of us counting manually, remember it was DA1, this data now, name 1. So with this just function, you have known what? The number of what? Headings. And this is how you have to operate. When they give you data set, the moment you load it here, you don't start your analysis. You inspect it. One of the functions we are using right now, which envelop a lot of these inspection functions, is what? .info. You can see a lot of things is what is informing us about this data set. Now, let's check here. Now, I want to check whether there's a missing value, whether there are some cells where there was no value. Now, if you check here now, if you have this same number all true, it means that what? All of them are what? Engaged. Let's say here you have 55500. Here you have 54. Once one of the header have less than the number of value, it means that what? There is a cell without value under what? That particular header. And then this is where you are viewing their what? Data types. This one is what? Object. This one is what? Integer. Can you see it now? So all this and memory usage, which I also mentioned in the note I gave you, 6 point what? 4 what? Megabytes. So now, float is what? Like double number now. You know, when we were talking about data type, because people do not research, go and do that assignment, you understand what is float. Float is a data type, a value, a number with what? Decimal point. They are called what? Floats. Exactly. Now, everybody. Now, let's look at additional 2 to 3 of them. So we are through with what? .info, right? Let's look at dot shape. Dot shape. Dot shape. Dot shape. Dot what? Shape. So dot shape, right, attributes is used to get the shape of numpy array of a pandas data frame. Dot shape attribute is used to get the shape of a numpy array of pandas data frame. Full stop. The shape of numpy array or a pandas data frame. Full stop paragraph. The shape of an array or data frame is a tuple that represents the number of dimensions. Are we together? Where did you stop, please? The shape of an array or data frame is a tuple. Are you writing? A tuple that represents the number of dimensions and the size of each dimension. That is what the shape represents. Just like you want to find out the length and the breadth of the data sets. So which is measured by the number of columns, which are the attributes, and the number of records. So anytime you want to measure the width and the height of your data set, use the shape. Now let's quickly look at the syntax. Pay attention. The syntax is, I will simply say what? DA what? 1 dot what? Shape. I'm not adding brackets. No brackets. So I will run. So what did it call out? This represents what? The rows, right? Why this represents what? The headings. You know, the info gave us this information as part of what it can provide. But this one just went straight and give us what? The number of rows. So this is just like rows by what? Column. So write this. Did you understand it? That is what this one gave us now. Look at it here now. When we look at it here, column. So let's quickly write down the syntax, then we'll move to the next one quickly. Write the syntax and also implement. Next one, which is dot column. All these functions, they are used for inspecting what? Data sets you loaded. So once I'm done with this one, that other data set that you loaded also with Excel, you now go and start running all these functions just to know about it. So let's continue. So here, dot what? Dot columns. Dot columns. Dot column, right. In Python, the dot columns attributes. In Python, the dot columns attributes is used to get the column labels. I said in Python, the dot columns attributes is used to get the column labels of a pandas data frame. Of a pandas data frame. So quickly, how do we access it? You simply call the name of your data set, which is DA1 dot column. DA1 dot column. Then once I run it, you see what it calls out only the heading from that data. I want to see them. Only the heading. I want to focus on them. So now let's implement. Write and also what? We'll be looking at data cleaning. That is where we'll start from in our next class. Data cleaning / data cleaning techniques in Python. Then we'll also do some exploratory analysis. By the grace of God, next class. So your classwork, like I said, you have to create another notebook right here, another notebook now. Then import your libraries, then load that Excel data set, then inspect it using all these functions we have mentioned.